Okay, now I ran into a problem on the oil filter. Most of the oil is drained out now. And to get the oil filter off, all you need to do is twist it, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Always remember that. But the problem is, and you will run into problems when you work on cars. Actually, working on cars is really kind of easy. But when you run into a problem, you just want to jump off a bridge sometimes, because sometimes it's always the little things that'll get you caught up. That'll take all the time in the world. But oil changes are easy. But this problem is, I tried loosening oil filter by hand, and you should always use your hand to tighten it and loosen oil filters, but this one doesn't want to come free. So I got this little tool here. It's called a cup wrench, I think. I don't know. But I'm going to loosen the oil filter with this. This may come into a problem when you're changing your oil, and you may not have this tool. So if you're going to change oil, you may invest in what's called a strap wrench. And what that is a wrench, and it's got a strap, and that'll help you loosen your oil filters that are on too tight. But I'm going to get this one now. Okay, after struggling with the oil filter, I finally got it off, and it just unscrews. And there's going to be a little oil that comes out with the oil filter. And just drop that in your pan, because you no longer need it. Okay, this is your drain plug. This is my drain plug. It's not yours. But there's a couple things you want to look at before you reinstall your drain plug. Number one, there's no shavings on the top. There's usually a magnet on top. Sometimes there's some shavings. Your threads are nice and thick and they're not stripped out. Okay, and you have the gasket, because it won't seal without the gasket. The gasket's right there. And make sure your drain plug's not rounded off. These are only $1 or $2 at the part store, and they're real easy to replace. But if you over tighten them, you'll have to replace your oil pan, and those are not easy to replace. So just make sure you got good threads, you got your gasket, and you got plenty of meat on your bolt for when you got to retighten it. Okay, now I just wiped that surface clean, tied my drain plug on there, and wiped the drain plug surface clean, put the drain plug back in after I've inspected it, and then I go over to my filter plate, take a rag, wipe down the surface so I get a good seal, wipe down the surface, make sure there's no old oil on there, so I get a good seal with the filter. Okay, for the new filter, I got my new filter, Fram or whatever. I take my finger, dip it into the old oil, make sure there's a gasket. There's a gasket on the filter right there like that. See the gasket? Make sure that's properly seated. Take some old oil, put it over the gasket. That way we get a nice good seal when we put it back up on the filter plate. Okay, now that I got my filter on and my drain plug on, I'm going to add 4 quarts of oil. 4 quarts. So here we go. I got my funnel in place. Okay, I've added 3.5 quarts of oil, and that's enough for right now. I'm not finished yet because I know my oil filter is empty, so I need to fill the oil filter up, and I do that by just starting it up. I start it up, wait for the oil pressure to rise, which it is. Oil pressure is as high as it's going to get. Shut it down, and I check the dipstick. Okay, when you're re-adding your oil, you're going to see your dipstick. Just give her a good wipe. And when you're re-adding your oil, you don't want to fill it up. You're going to have your add mark, and then you're going to have your cross hatches, and you don't want to fill up your oil. I'm going to say this again. Don't fill up your oil. If you fill up your oil, it's added oil pressure in your engine, and it's hard on the gaskets. You want it right in between the cross hatches. They'll say add, and then it'll be full, and you want it right in between your cross hatches. That's where you want your oil. You don't want it to be full. If you fill it to the top, that's fine. If you overfill it, get under there and loosen the drain plug and drain some out. But you don't want to fill it up. You want to keep it right in the middle of the crosshatches. Okay, for my final step, I'm going to start it. Make sure it's in neutral. And then I'm going to make sure there's no leaks up underneath. No leaks whatsoever. Looks good. Filter sealed. Drain plug sealed. Looks real good. Okay, my cap's on. Dipstick's in. Looks good. Now that we've made sure there's no leaks, we're all done. And we just changed our oil. God bless you. I know life is hard now. Keep the faith. Amen. Thanks for watching.